Thank you for joining us as we have a conversation with Simon Goddard this morning. And I'm Beth Powney, one of the regional ministers, and here is Simon Goddard from Rivertree. So Simon, can you tell us a little bit about your current ministry and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's good to be with you and to be having this conversation. So Rivertree began a couple of years ago, and it's a way for me to work out a portfolio ministry, all focused around helping individuals and organizations be fruitful in the mission of God. And that portfolio of work that I do at the moment involves a number of things. I work a couple of days a week with Fresh Expressions, the ecumenical movement, leading on resourcing. I am one of the 3 pioneer ambassadors nationally for the Baptist Union, alongside Roy Searle and Annie Bolton. I'm a mission enabler within the EBA, and I also do some consultancy and accompaniment for churches as they seek to be fruitful in mission. So yeah, Rivertree's doing at the moment.
It sounds like a very busy life, that's for sure.
A little bit, yeah.
The reason we wanted a conversation with Simon today is that several months ago now, when we were in the depths of lockdown, he wrote a paper about what it means to be distributed church. And as today we're thinking about discipleship being where you are, I thought it might be helpful to unpack this a little bit with Simon. So Simon, what do you mean by this phrase, distributed church?
Yeah, it's a phrase, I haven't come up with the phrase, it's a phrase I heard being used by the Fresh Expressions movement in the US, not particularly here in the UK, but, and I wrote the blog post on Ascension Day, not necessarily a day that we as Baptists put a lot of emphasis on, but in my mind there was the sense that Jesus prepared his disciples for a time when he was going to leave. He made sure he equipped those around him so that they were able to do what they are being called to do, to follow in his footsteps once he had gone. And my perception during lockdown was that our disciples, the members of our churches, weren't necessarily as equipped as Jesus' disciples were when he left them. That we have a model of discipleship which doesn't necessarily prepare people to go it alone in some ways. In the article I said, what would it look like for the church's ministers to be able to say to their church members, when we can get back together, that'd be great, but you've learned the stuff, you know what to do it for as long as 6, 9, 12 months until we can get back together again, and then come back and tell us all the stories. And we're just not set up in a way that equips, that distributes the work of ministry, the task of mission to the individuals within the church. We've only got a corporate sense, and often that corporate sense is identified in the person of the minister, rather than a distributed sense of mission and ministry in the wider life of the church. So briefly, that's what I've been thinking about in the phrase distributed church, a ministry and mission that doesn't just sit in the gathered church and in the minister, but is outworked day by day in the lives and the ministries of wherever people are during the rest of the week. And that's just a natural part of what it means to be a Christian and a follower of Christ.
And that should be a natural expression of us as disciples and followers of Jesus.
That's right.
And actually sits quite closely, I suspect, alongside the work of LICC.
Yeah, fruitfulness on the front line.
Yeah, their frontline work, very similar kind of thinking. So if we've got church leaders watching this, if we've got house group leaders watching this, in what way can they be equipped in order to function in this context? What do you think needs to happen?
Well, I think there are two places where I've seen this teaching helpfully at work. So one, in the disciple making movement, they have this acronym that's MAWL, M-A-W-L, which says, which means model, assist, watch, leave. And this is a process of discipleship. Which means that you model something as a leader, whether that's a small group leader, whether it's a minister. You assist people to then do it with a bit of help. Then you watch them as they do it and perhaps give a few pointers, and then you leave. They are ready to do it themselves. In the book Life Shapes, it's called the Discipleship Square, and it's articulated slightly differently, but they identify Jesus discipling in this way: I do, you watch; I do, you help; you do, I help; and then you do, I watch. And then discipleship journey has been completed, and the leader is able to leave. Those two sort of models are helpful in thinking about the fact that we as leaders are called to not do to or do for constantly, but to equip and enable and empower those around us. Just a very practical, when I was in local ministry, a small group Bible study, that there was a lady who was part of that. When I became minister, I went to this house group, and they were very dependent upon the minister to lead this Bible study. Basically, it had been enough opportunity for the minister to preach again midweek. But over time, this particular lady who I invested in, I created a Bible study that was much more multi-voiced, and we used resources. And this one time I couldn't be there, and I said, would you mind using this resource just to facilitate the conversation? Oh, I'm not sure about that. That happened. And over time, as I invested in her and enabled her to take more responsibility, she was able to lead this group amongst her friends. I think that is that model of not doing for, but equipping people to do for themselves, and then to equip others as well, to that constant rolling out of, we're all being discipled by somebody and discipling somebody.
So in a nutshell, it's about equipping and releasing in the same way that Jesus did for his disciples, and seeing the church flow out from there, and the church grow and flourish as it's released. Be so much more than perhaps it can be locked in a building on a Sunday, maybe.
That's right. But that's very challenging for us, when people need us to be the person. Actually, if we have that discipleship model, we're often ending up in places where people don't need us anymore because we've equipped them to do what they need to be doing. That can be a challenging for us. A challenging thing for us to do as leaders is to give away power, to give away leadership, to give away ministry and mission to others. But I think I'd go back to Ephesians 4 and the fact that the shepherds, the teachers, the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists are all given to the church to equip the saints for the work of ministry, not to do the work of ministry. And I think we need to rediscover that.
That's fantastic, Simon. It would be lovely to talk with you for much, much longer, but I think our time is running out. But could you just quickly perhaps recommend anything that people could read or watch or listen to continue this journey of thinking around this subject?
Sure. Well, you mentioned the LICC materials, but I'm involved nationally with Fresh Expressions, and I would encourage the whole Fresh Expressions movement is about the small and the many, releasing everybody to lead congregations or groups with their friends in their networks. And this book is one that I'd recommend, Refresh by Michael Moyner and Rob Peabody. But the various resources that Fresh Expressions have, one of them in particular, if you look on the App Store for FX Godsend, there's an app that you can download for free that takes you through the Fresh Expressions journey of listening, loving and serving, building community, exploring discipleship, seeing church or congregation or some sort of worshiping community emerge, and then doing it again. And that process is one that we would encourage people to be equipped in. So
that's fantastic, thank you. And we'll put the details of these resources on our website so that you can go and find them there if you didn't quite catch the names or the titles of the authors that Simon was mentioning. So thank you so much, Simon, for joining me in this conversation. Thank you for listening. And I pray that that has inspired you to take a few more steps towards who your church can be for the future. God bless you all.
Bye.